Okay, you've been here long enough. I guess you could be a member.
Well, that was nice of you to say about them.
I was talking about you.
Hey. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry it's been a while. I've been going through some personal stuff and I've been busy with work, so I apologize, but I wanted to make sure I did another video. I took a poll on Twitter to see what people wanted me to write about, and the general census was about different writing styles and genres, so that's what today's topic is going to be about. Now, there are many different writing styles and interpretations and opinions on them, but I just want to at least share a few of my own. Number 1, what I would describe as the top-down, kind of like the top-down gaming style, which is sort of like a view from the sky down, watching little people, almost like a sim game where you're, watching everything from above, sort of writing style where you're a little disconnected, but you still see what's going on, you still know what's happening, just kind of not really feeling like you're a part of it, but you're seeing it. And number 2, the first-person view. Games like Skyrim or Fallout, where you feel like you are the main character. You feel everything the main character feels. You see what the main character sees. You hear what they hear. You feel like you are the one, going through everything in the story. And number 3, the third-person view, which is, basically like a lot of games like Fable or, some other games where you feel like you're an invisible best friend of the main character. You feel like you're in the same room and sort of experiencing everything, but not firsthand. You're kind of hearing everything because you're almost like in the same room, but you're not the one experiencing it. Where you're more just tagging along with the main character, going with them on their journey, whatever they're going through. Next section, genres. Most everyone knows what genres are. Horror, fantasy, sci-fi, mystery, thrillers, whatever. Most people know about those. I want to talk a little bit more in depth about them, but more briefly. One in genres, and probably one of the more popular, is fiction, because it's still set in a real-world-like setting, a much more realistic setting, but not everything is real. Like sometimes there's magic or certain types of characters. Movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, things like that are more, also more sci-fi, but also fiction in the way that you have real people, realistic settings, but not everything in it is real. Number 2, nonfiction, where everything is real. The character was a real existing person or someone who has existed. Everything they went through was real. Everything about it, the setting, where they lived, everything about it's real. A real person, a real life that has or does exist. And then we come to number 3, sci-fi. Also a pretty popular one. Usually more futuristic. Things like World of Warcraft, again, Star Wars, Star Trek, things like that, where they have futuristic type technology or weapons and clothing, things like that. Everything generally, it doesn't have to be, but it just more often than not is set in a futuristic time, whether it's 10 years in the future or 1,000 years. Those are some of the more common ones in sci-fi. And number 4, fantasy. Fantasy is where almost everything is made up and, unrealistic. Almost the complete opposite of nonfiction. But, there are times when you can use realistic things, usually like gravity or whatever, but a lot of things in fantasy tend to be more, unusual, unique, and different, where you have characters who aren't human or part human or whatever. You get characters who, speak different languages that are not spoken on Earth, different things like that. You have humanoid or, just blob creatures, whatever kind of creatures you want to have for your story. Those tend to be more fantasy. Different worlds, different everything. And number 5, horror. That's also pretty popular. Horror, the gorier the better. More destructive and beautiful blood everywhere. Number 6, comedy. Not a lot of people write comedy nowadays, at least in books, but I'm sure some people still do. It's not as common anymore, but most everyone loves to laugh, so. Period pieces. Period pieces are some of my favorites at times, depending on, but period pieces can be anything from early 20th century to biblical times, way back when. And they would just use sticks and rocks and mud and stuff, but it could be medieval times, could be, early 20th century, pretty much anything in a past time period that's not recent. But I like period pieces. This can be pretty good sometimes. And number 6. I get 6, maybe 7. I don't know. Anyway, next one, westerns. Not a lot of people write westerns anymore. I mean, they are still around, but not as common again either. But some people still like them. And I think they can be pretty good. Westerns, set in the old West, back when they used, revolvers and early rifles and things like that to protect their towns and their people. If there are any genres that I missed, I do apologize. These are just some of the ones that I could think of at the moment. But, there's probably a few more. Either way, it's some genres that people write in. A little bit about them. And last but not least, I wanted to do a little bit about finding your voice within writing. How does someone find their voice? Well, it's not always easy to answer, but best I can think of to say is that even if 2 people wrote the same story, they'd both be different because each person has their own voice in writing the same story. Not everyone would use the same descriptions, or one person might write in first person, another might write in third. You never know. So even 2 stories being told, the same story being told by 2 people would still end up being different, depending on, the way they wrote their story. Everyone has their own voice. Everyone has their own way of telling a story. Everyone needs to find their own. They might be similar, but they will not be the same, because everyone will have their own ways of describing certain scenes or certain characters, and others may do it differently. So, You just gotta find your own voice and tell your story. Only the way that you can. Because no one else can tell a story the same way that you can. So keep writing, and keep learning, and I love you all, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.